Good afternoon and welcome to our first ever housing talks. This is the first of a series of talks we will be delivering digitally throughout the term to take you through your housing journey step by step. The Advice Centre will be hosting these talks every fortnight with the aim to provide you with valuable housing information you can use to make your informed decisions about your housing next year. So what will happen is the next 10 minutes you'll have a housing presentation on house hunting and choosing a landlord. And then we will finish with some closing comments, so please enjoy. So good afternoon and welcome to Warwick Students' Union Advice Centre Housing Talks. My name is Bianca Vols and I'm the Welfare Advisor here. The first of our talks is going to be about house hunting and choosing a landlord or agent. This is the team, and we are the advice team at the Advice Centre, or the A team as we like to call ourselves. And as you can see, the team currently consists of Dee Hammond, Bianca Vols, myself, Charlotte Cowdell, and our manager Minaz Ali. Today we're going to look at what you need to consider, where to start looking, a few important legal bits, how we can support you, how to contact us, and then some questions at the end. So where shall we start? I think the most important thing that we can ask for you to do is not panic. For many years, there's been a rumour that states that if you haven't got accommodation sorted by the end of the year, that you will be homeless. I can assure you this is not the case and never has been. There is currently more accommodation than there are students in Coventry and Leamington combined, so please take your time and do not panic. So let's have a look at what you need to consider. Below are 4 of the big things you need to think about. There are probably more, but these are the 4 we're going to look at today. So location. Where do you and your friends want to live? The 3 most common locations are Coventry, Leamington and Kenilworth. Typically, these are the 3 areas that our students look to live in, but you need to consider a few things when looking at these as your options. Canley and Cannock Park, which are areas in Coventry, are very close to campus and within reasonable walking distance. Leamington Spa is a very popular area as it's more affluent, but when looking at this, you need to consider how you're going to get to and from university. So transport is important, which leads on to our second consideration. There is very little parking on campus, so if you do drive, we also recommend that you don't drive onto campus. Likeliness is you won't get parking, and it can be pricey at that. This leaves you with walking, cycling or public transport. Although Leamington Spa is popular, it is further away from the university, so consider your times. You need to be onto campus, and don't forget to take into account rush hour. As Google it says it's 20 to 30 minutes away, but in rush hour traffic, realistically, this can be more like an hour. So you also need to consider your travel costs when you're thinking about travelling to and from uni. On to the next one, which is a big one. You want to consider who you want to live with. Many of our first years will sign a contract with friends that they've made within the first month or 2 of being on campus. And for many, this works out just fine. I ask you to consider, though, that maybe a month or 2 may not be enough time to fully get to know the intricacies of another person's personality. Taking that into consideration, we suggest and highly recommend that you take your time. Really get to know the people that you're considering living with, and consider the little things, such as a person's cleaning habits. Do they like to study at night or in the day? Are they the kind of people who like to party? Do they like loud music? All of these things can all become problems in the future if they don't merge well with your own living style. So we say this because once you've signed the contract, you're legally tied to it, and it's incredibly difficult to change anything after. So please consider the little things as they are important to you. As I said, it can cause lots of problems later down the line, and it's very difficult to solve these issues after you've signed the contract. Lastly, I want you to think about your budget and what you can afford. Typically, larger houses tend to be more expensive, so consider your utility bills, as a big house can cost a lot of money to heat, and also the more personalities you have in one house, the higher the chance of personalities clashing. So if you do have a large group of 8 or more people, maybe consider 2 smaller houses in close proximity to each other. And there is a house hunting guide on the university website on StudentPad, which is well worth having a look at, and a presentation on StudentPad will follow after this presentation. So where do you start? I'm going to point you primarily in the first instance to StudentPad. This is a comprehensive website by Warwick University, so please check this out. It has a lot of information on there, And even if you don't use student pad yourself to actually get accommodation, it answers a lot of your questions, and I would always point you in that direction first. The most common place to look after that is Rightmove or Zoopla. These are search platforms where you can tailor to look specifically for student accommodation, and the areas you want to live, your budget, number of bedrooms, etc. When you're looking through the search, you will find the estate agent and landlord details will be on the page that you're looking at. You contact them directly and arrange a viewing. I always recommend that you view a property in person if possible, as photographs can be deceptive and they can be very old. So it's not necessarily what you're looking at is what you're going to get. We have lots of problems with students having an expectation of the properties that they've not viewed, and when they get into the property are very disappointed. So please view in person if you can. There is accommodation on campus for exceptional circumstances. You'd have to apply for this accommodation through Wellbeing Support, and spaces are limited, and I say for specifically exceptional cases. So these being either disabilities or vulnerable students of such sort. Lastly, you can just Google search purpose-built student accommodation in Coventry or in Lem. These properties can have ensuite or without. They can vary incredibly price-wise, have lots of facilities, some of them gyms, that kind of thing, others not. So please do your research, and if possible, speak to students who live in the accommodation to get an idea and a sense of the kind of place that it is and the kind of landlord you're dealing with. Some legal bits. So the Tenants Fee Acts, the only rents that landlords or agents are able to charge on new contracts are below. These are rent, which you expect, a refundable tenancy deposit capped at no more than 5 weeks' rent, where the total annual rent is less than £50,000, which is usually the case in these situations. Or if the annual rent is over £50,000, they're allowed to charge up to 6 weeks' rent for the deposit. The deposit we'll go into later on down the line, but there is a refundable holding deposit to reserve a property, which they can cap at no more than 1 week's rent. It says refundable, but I must state that it's only refundable should the landlord or the estate agent be the ones who pull out. So if you've put down a 1 week's rent holding deposit and then you decide not to go with that property, they are completely within their rights to keep that 1 week's rent. So keep that in mind. They're allowed to charge for payments associated with earlier termination of the tenancy. This can be somewhat misleading because it gives you the impression that you can have an early termination of your tenancy. It is incredibly difficult to do so, and most landlords will not allow it. They're just losing money. So the only way to go around this is possibly finding a replacement for your tenancy, which can be difficult, but please get in touch with us if you have such an incident happen. But they can charge for maybe advertising the property and the change in contract if we get to that point. Payments in respect of utilities, telephone, TV, licence, council tax is also common, and default fees for late payments and rent and any replacement of lost keys or security devices can also be required under the tenancy agreement. All letting agents must be a member of a redress scheme so that if you have a dispute with your agent, there is a complaints procedure they must comply with. The approved schemes are the Property Ombudsman and the Property Redress Scheme. If you get to that point, please come speak to us and we will help you through the process. So now we come to the end of our first housing talk. What I would like to say is that we are here to help. Hopefully everything will run smoothly and you'll have a stress-free time in your housing journey. But if anything goes wrong along the way, or if you have any concerns or questions, please do get in touch. And if you do need help with your contracts or tenancy agreements, we can do that for you. So please send them through to us prior to you signing them. We'll be able to go through anything that you don't understand or anything that you're stuck with. We'll also be able to let you know if there's anything that we highlight or anything that we see that's of concern. So we can also help with disputes, whether it be with the landlord, estate agent, or with household members. And we're also able to advocate and liaise with landlords and estate agents on your behalf should you be struggling to find a resolution. Contact details for everything is below. So our inquiry form is at www.warwicksu.com/help-support/contact, or you can use the QR code that will take you directly to the form. Our details there for the advice manager Minaz and myself, Dee and Charlotte are also on screen. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed our talk. There will be a further talk on the 27th of October where we'll cover contracts, deposits and rights to rent. Please feel free to let your friends know if they've missed it or join us on that one. We will be putting these videos up on our website, and we would really love your feedback if you're able to complete them. So if you have any questions, feel free to get in touch with us on our inquiry form below. Thank you.